Hello, everyone. It's great to see you here today. Love family offices, spent 7 years at Moose Partners. And so I'm very familiar with the challenges and also the advantages that family offices have. And today I have two wonderful panelists who are joining me, Santiago Andrade and Dan Morozov. Santiago is CEO and he is the founder of Finequities. And Dan is a co-founder of an AI-powered solution that is called Vidro VR. And I would like to give both of them just a few minutes to jump in and introduce themselves. I like them and respect them, and they are so fun. I asked them to include one fun fact as they are speaking about their achievements. So we know their light and fun side, as well as their serious and hardworking side. Go ahead, Santiago.
Great. Nice to see you, Julia. Thank you very much for the introduction. Well, I'll try to be funny. I don't know if I'm able to do that. I mean, I was funny when I was younger, but the older I get, the serious I am. So let's try it. So yeah, about my life, I've been working in the financial industry for all of my life, which means that I'm not a millennial anymore. So I've been working for over 20 years in the sector. And what I've done is I was working in private banking, and I worked for large firms, American firms like Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley, where I have learned a lot and throughout the years. And actually, what happened was that a few years ago, I was concerned about what I had experienced in my life in terms of how life was changing in terms of technology, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to adapt the business because I started being an entrepreneur. It was 6 years ago, and I wanted to adapt it to the technology world. So that's why we're here, right? So yeah. So now we are launching a social trading platform where people can interact and learn from other investors inside the brokerage environment. So let's say that it's going to be a peer-to-peer social trading platform. We are in the peer-to-peer world now. Everyone wants to have everything under control, and people want to interact with each other. So that's what we're doing right now.
Excellent. So do you have, okay, you know what? I'll throw a couple of more questions at you in just a moment. Dan, sure. I would like you to introduce yourself and a fun fact, if you could.
Oh, yeah, sure, Julia. My name is Dan. Unlike most of you folks, definitely not from the finance world originally. I came from the AI side of things and the AI side of the house, but have been kind of like working through this for the last few years. I guess the fun fact before that is I have a pretty eclectic background. Before I was working in artificial intelligence technologies, I was primarily focused on the brain. And I joke with people saying that I used to torture animals for a living, and now I just torture them to buy our stuff. So effectively, I come from neuroscience, and so have kind of an eclectic view of how artificial intelligence is evolving. And I'm actually very excited to kind of talk to you guys about some of the work that's happening in the space and how it's impacting finance and financial services. So I'm very happy to be here and excited to talk.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Now, I know that we over-prepared. We threw some slides together that we will not be able to show. So right now our audience is probably so incredibly happy because show me one person who A, wants to be on Zoom, and B, look at a PowerPoint at the same time. So we are going to have to use probably hand puppets, or I don't know how we're going to do it, because we're going to be talking about like some serious AI and trading related concepts, and we're going to have to explain it with words. So Santiago, I am going to put you in that difficult situation first.
No problem.
And let's stick with our prepared example. So we were thinking of a way to explain some of the new and cool things that we can do in fintech these days. Obviously, some of it is AI. I mean, what fintech conversation, what fintech panel could you do these days without saying these two magical letters? And obviously, in trading, the introduction of the social media and the fact that all your friends and all your frenemies are in there, and you can take a look at their portfolios and maybe do the opposite or do the same. You know, it's interesting that we are truly innovative here with these two gentlemen who's going to speak in a second, and they are blending things that we don't usually see kind of put together. So Santiago, in your case, using a Tesla example, right? It's as good of a stock as any, wouldn't you say? Using a Tesla example, how would you say, what is new about your trading application? What can one do if you would like to invest in a Tesla stock, or you'd like to research a Tesla stock? What is different about what you do as opposed to going on Robinhood or anywhere else?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so I think there is well, the main thing of Finequities is, as I said, you know, it's a peer-to-peer social trading platform. So what I've experienced in my own, I remember when I was a financial advisor, and someone was coming to the bank where I was working, and I was giving them advice. Right, it was just reduced to a single advisor, which is myself. Right, so. What we can do now when you have a social trading platform is that you can receive advices from thousands of people, hundreds of people, right? So at the same time, this is one of the things that probably the fintech world has changed, is that you can access to very cheap platforms, and you can get sometimes, you know, the tools that you need to interact to execute trades in the stock markets. What we are doing is that we are not only we not only have a brokerage environment, we also have that advisory. So that advisory means that once you are there and you're interacting with the users that are within the app, right? You can receive any kind of advice from anyone, and you can follow someone's portfolio, which means, and this is very real. Why? Because you're actually, I mean, you are accessing to someone's profile, and you're seeing how you are tracking the performance of that person, and you can interact, you can comment, you can ask for something, and you are receiving an advice from someone. That's the first part of it. And the second
Santiago,
thing,
how real time is that?
I can hear you. Sorry.
What is the real time? I mean, is it? Can I follow at the same time my co-investment?
No. What I meant is the real thing is that you are tracking someone's portfolio, and you can select a date, you know, a number of I don't know, days, months, or something, so you can see exactly, you know, what the success of that investor. You can copy their trades, his or her trades, and that's something very real. It's not only an advice; it's something that you are tracking. So you can select any of the advisors. You can have your guru within the app.
But it is not real time.
It is real time. It is
okay. That was my question. Okay, perfect.
It is real time. Yeah. So it's not only a trading app. So we're talking about an advisory app. That's why we're saying peer-to-peer social trading platform.
Wonderful. So have you read the book Wisdom of Crowds? Is this kind of where you're trying to go with it?
Oh, is it like that? Okay, this is time to read it.
Okay, so thank you so much, Santiago. Dan, following up on our Tesla example, as someone is interested in trading it and they've talked to their friends, they asked for some advice from people that they consider to be in authority. How can your app add to that?
So yeah, let me kind of go off the back of what Santiago was alluding to, and I think it's important to set the stage on kind of like where we operate. And we've been in business for a little bit of time, close to 5 years now, and primarily the one of the big challenges when you're dealing with social trading or trying to use information that's covered from all over kind of the world is figuring out a way to actually collect and process that information reliably. And I think one of your earlier panelists actually spoke to this from the point of view of textual data and textual documents and creating some form of information system that you can extract knowledge from. That being said, the world today is not the world as it was maybe 20 or 30 years ago, right? And I think the advent of social media technologies, the advent of kind of networks that rely on data that is not just text only is becoming more and more prevalent, especially with new generations of technical users that are leveraging the internet and social media in very new ways. So effectively what this presents is a challenge for any type of technology that's trying to extract meaningful information from effectively what is called true multimedia. So imagery, audio, and video data, as well as textual data. How do you go about doing that? And that's kind of the niche that we occupy. We try to focus on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and computer vision technologies that enable the extraction and processing of this type of information, non-textual information, to build relational models so that you can make reliable inferences. What this allows you to do as an individual is effectively to perform trading activities very similar or reminiscent to large professional funds without actually investing in the teams and the resources necessary to do that as an analyst. So effectively, the way AI works in the space is that it provides a way to augment your ability to collect information and distill that information for the meaningful pieces that are relevant to your trading strategies or your portfolios. And so effectively, we try to build those tools to enable people to use that at scale. And kind of to circle that all the way back to your Tesla example, basically like one of the things that we discussed and kind of to provide you some value or some concrete examples here is like, as a Tesla analyst at a large fund, if you're doing fundamental trading investment on long-term portfolio stocks and trying to figure out where it's going to move over the next 6 to 12 months, you're effectively trying to assess very complicated interactions in, say, like supply chain dynamics. So the example that we focused on was talking about lithium, right? And lithium is a fundamental requirement for building Tesla cars, right? So if you don't have lithium, you can't build Tesla batteries, and so you can't ship Tesla vehicles. So if you look at Tesla, you know that their primary supplier is a company called CATL out of China. Most of the data out there from CATL is in Mandarin Chinese. The interesting thing, though, is that most of the lithium ore in the world is actually in Latin America. So effectively, this presents a challenge for any analysis or analyst to do work on this type of data, because you have to not only extract information from different parts of the planet, you also need to fuse it together in different languages and different medium. So like you can have a video about cattle investing, say, in some projects in Chile or Latin America, and it's going to be in Spanish. And then you're going to have some filings or reports in Mandarin Chinese. And you're going to have to basically take all that information and somehow structure it to extract meaning to make an assessment or an evaluation. And that's kind of the niche area that we occupy.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Dan. Now, let's put, as we've learned about Tesla and used it as an example, we have recently seen that there are some interesting dynamics in terms of trading. We saw people getting together and having the stock run, investing in a particular stock. We all know of, recent examples where hedge funds were frankly surprised by what was going on in the market. And it was caused by people trading together, talking about, what they're going to invest in, running up the price. And if you have a short position, some of the funds found themselves in a very unpleasant situation. Now, what tools do you think are going to help individual people, the majority of whom are millennials, who are going on the trading platforms, like the one that Santiago has created and is launching soon? what tools can they possibly use to stand a chance as they're trading against the hedge funds and financial services firms out there? How does tech help? How can it help? Santiago, I'm gonna turn to you first and to Dan second.
Right. Well, it's very interesting what Dan said about artificial intelligence and the information you're getting, right? From from many resources. I mean, so many different places that you can have information from. So I think one important thing that actually we've been thinking about when we're building the platform was that if being a social trading platform doesn't mean that only individuals are giving you advice about something. So we also have, and I was thinking about this when Dan was talking, that we could introduce that artificial intelligence, which is we have the Finequities advisor. Finequities advisor is there all the time on top of the platform and always moderating and giving advice depending on the trending stocks or the trending investors, right? So that gives the ability in the platform to to people to understand what's happening, explaining what's going on, and being safer, right? So when you are detecting the problems that are having, like for example about the lithium and everything that that Dan said, I think it's important when you recollect that information from Finequities and you are giving that to the users, so they can interact by knowing what is happening with a company like Tesla, which is very important, and it's not and avoid to happen things like what happened a few months ago that we all know, right? So that's kind of been trying to be safer.
Got it. Dan?
Yeah, so I think what you're alluding to, Julia, is kind of the collective movement of stocks based on collective trading from what used to be uncoordinated individual traders, right? And I think basically we've seen this kind of become a standard, especially in kind of millennials and Generation Z traders on various platforms. I think Reddit occupied that role that Santiago is basically, and Reddit occupied that role for like GameStop and AMC trades, but now Santiago is building similar types of platform that enables kind of this collective activity to happen, right? I think that's very interesting from the point of view of being competitive when you're dealing with coming up against large hedge funds, because historically they've held positions of, I guess, advantageous positions based on kind of their scale and size that they were able to invest, but also basically the way they garnered information, right? So the ability to collect information, collect data, stretched across various kinds of data sets and tools that they use internally to do that. And hedge funds spend a lot of money collecting data assets and also have interests in other ways of getting signal from trading activity. A good example is Citadel's investment in Robinhood and their ability to route order flow through their brokerage. So I think artificial intelligence will occupy in the future a very interesting kind of role in that it will enable smaller collections of people or individuals to at least get some level of comparable insights that would otherwise cost large amounts of capital to produce. And these insights are going to become cheaper and cheaper as technology and primarily computational technologies like the cost of GPU chips and the cost of compute scales or trends downwards, right? And that's kind of what we've been seeing over the last few years, outside of kind of the Bitcoin dynamics in that space. But I think it becomes very, very important, especially when you're dealing with kind of alternative trading or alternative investments, right? So if you're looking at crypto, there's no centralization in that market. It's heavily fragmented, and you need tools to collect information reliably in order to make any form of assessment other than speculation. Now, if you're willing to speculate on the market and that's kind of what your business is, that's fine. But I think a lot of people are looking for ways of getting those unfair advantages. And I think artificial intelligence occupies that role. And I've seen quite a number of platforms. I'm based in New York, around kind of Wall Street down here and kind of around New York City, that are building some of these artificial intelligence tools that could be leveraged to give individual traders, investors some leg up in this kind of artificially intelligently augmented ecosystem that's going to be effectively increasing in its footprint, especially in the professional funds.
I'm just emailing Rick the 3 questions.
Most definitely, if you have the ability to quickly find information in Chinese and in Spanish that concerns lithium that goes into batteries and affects the production rates of Tesla vehicles, if before it would have been unthinkable and the information advantage was so skewed towards professional firms that have access to this type of information. So what do you think about the trends that this technology is going to make possible? Do you see that uncoordinated trading could now go towards more coordination? Do you feel that informational advantage is going to be somewhat diminished between professional firms and individual traders? Or are we just at the very beginning and we don't know yet how it's going to unfold? Would you speculate on what the future is going to hold? You don't have to, and we can open this up to all of the participants as well and get their views. Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. I mean, I feel like speculating in general is a bad idea because every time you say something will happen, it usually doesn't, or vice versa. My belief is, to some degree, I think we're still very early on in seeing there are established players in the space that are publicly traded companies that you guys can look to that are doing some of this work. I think Data Miner is a great example of that. They focus historically on textual data, but and effectively at Twitter and kind of the first generation of social media. But they're effectively trying to adapt to the changing kind of ecosystems as populations of people are trending towards other platforms. So there's definitely that. In terms of information advantage, I think it's really kind of a question of also dynamics and whether or not you're trading on speed or you're trading on information that the market hasn't, for example, collected or hasn't permeated the market effectively. So depending on the type of strategies that you undertake, there will be different tools available, right? So you have kind of the HFTs or the high frequency trading houses that focus on specific tool sets to get that unfair advantage. And then you have other kind of more fundamental investment houses that are also focusing on other more informational kind of longer trending behaviors in the market that they can tap into to get some kind of alpha or something like that.
Thanks, Dan. Santiago?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it depends on the type of investor you are. Yes, speculators are, we know that probably, we've calculated and it's probably around 90% of the people who are investing now in platforms are speculators, or at least are very, short-time investors, which means that if I had to advise, I'm a more, long-term advisor. Why? Because I think that you are, in case you're playing to the short game, you're putting a lot of risk, and it depends on the risk you want to take, obviously. But at least, the platforms are giving you now the tools that you can buy and sell, just in seconds, and you can do whatever you want. But definitely needs to be. I think people need to learn about how difficult sometimes the stock markets are. And you need to be safe in case you don't want to lose all of your money, because it could happen in seconds. So that's the thing that I think people need to know. So learning is something very important when we talk about the stock markets. And it's something that people usually, it's a lack, right? So that's what I think.
Julie, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. If you want to open it up to questions.
Oh, most definitely. Any questions from the audience?
I have a question for Santiago.
Yeah, hello.
Santiago, are you structuring your firm to be a broker dealer?
Excuse me, am I structuring my firm to be?
Are you structuring your firm to be a broker dealer so that you can actually, so orders can be routed through, to you?
Yes, with that, we right now we have partnered with a broker firm. And so you can execute trades through our firm, and in the future we'll be a broker. Yeah, that's part of the business plan.
Any other questions, please?
Any thoughts on DeFi and debanking? Don't all take it at once.
About DeFi?
Out there, I'm gonna throw out a question for Julia. Hey, Julia, so, family offices are pretty archaic when it comes to technology usage.
Mhm.
Do you think there's any opportunities for new platforms in the space and for, making process better?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. We speak to family offices all the time who say they won't invest in anything banking related because DeFi is coming. Much like my colleagues on the panel, when I asked them about speculating about the future, it's very, very difficult to do that. So we don't quite know, exactly what happens. It's hard to paint a full picture, but what we do know is there are superior ways of doing things, and DeFi is all about informational advantage. There are no parties who are left blind out there and who don't have full information about what's going on. And I know that we have a panel on that in New York, and we'll talk a lot about that.